Hi everyone. What I want to talk about today is the effect of a low battery in a power wheelchair. I want to begin by showing you how a wheelchair alerts you to the battery being low. You see these two flashing red lights. After a short time longer, it reduces to one flashing light, and then the wheelchair simply will not go. If you're out and the batteries run out of power and you need help getting back home, there is different options depending on the wheelchair that you use to disengage the motors and allow your wheelchair to become a manual wheelchair. Where this would benefit you is loading the wheelchair either onto a wheelchair accessible taxi service, a wheelchair accessible bus, or if absolutely nothing else is available, a towing service that uses a flat bed option, meaning it slants down, the same idea as a utility trailer to load the wheelchair on. Then you would push the wheelchair onto whatever vehicle is rescuing you. When the wheelchair comes home, it needs a solid 8-hour block on the battery charger. It's exceptionally hard on wheelchair batteries to only receive a partial charge. Once you have it hooked up to the charger, it needs to stay on there until the wheelchair has become fully charged. When the flashing red light is on, your wheelchair will not make it up an incline. It will only be able to drive on level ground. The reason being is the increased effort that it takes the wheelchair to drive up a hill has been depleted from the batteries that are in it. How you can know how the wheelchair is doing and if the batteries are running low is that the wheelchair's speed potential starts reducing. What I mean by this is you're going to notice that the wheelchair is running slower than usual and it progressively gets slower. If you're running out of battery power and you know you're not going to make it home, you should stop before you're stuck on the side of the road and get someone's attention so you can be rescued and get yourself home. I notice during the winter time that the wheelchair loses about 30% of its driving range because of the cold weather. If you've ever owned a car batteries have a cold cranking amps rating. So this is especially important where I live here in Canada because of our winter climate. The cold cranking amps speaks to the battery's ability to operate and provide electricity in a cold environment like outdoors before the car's engines and the fluid in the car's engine warms up the battery environment under the hood. With the wheelchair, it will come from being inside the home, so the energy potential's there. If you're going to visit a friend and it's a cold winter climate, if at all possible, the wheelchair should be brought inside so you have the battery power to either get back home or get to a bus stop before you run out of your electricity. If nothing else is possible, then the lesser of all evils would be putting the wheelchair into a garage where it's sheltered from the wind and perhaps even a few degrees warmer outside because of the effect of the sun shining through a window. The wheelchair's battery truly do their best in a warm climate. How far your wheelchair will drive depends on a few things. One of the issues is the strength of the batteries, so if they're high quality batteries or not. Another issue that affects the distance your wheelchair can drive is the shape and size of the battery component, meaning how much battery can be stored in there. If it's a smaller component, your wheelchair is not going to be able to go as far. The other key issue that affects how far a wheelchair is going to drive is the same idea as an automobile's city and highway driving ratings. If you're driving the wheelchair around your home environment or an office, school, or other businesses, you're going to be stopping and starting frequently. That uses a whole lot of the battery's power up to restart the momentum of the wheelchair driving forward. A wheelchair does not do or go as far in city type driving, that is when you're stopping and starting. My wheelchair does a good job of distance driving, such as when I take myself to physiotherapy, because I'm driving a few blocks at a time before I have to come to a complete stop. Now, the other issue, of course, is where is your battery power at when you leave your home? I don't charge my batteries every night. In fact, every time you charge them, you typically take off a little bit of their ability to drive. Being repeatedly recharged eventually causes the batteries just to die out and lose their ability to hold a charge. So I know how far my wheelchair is able to drive, and I pretty well know my plan for the next day before I go to bed, so I know if I should hook up the wheelchair to be charged at bedtime or not, depending on my plans for the next day. Now, not everyone's going to have the ability to predict this. If you do have the mental aptitude to plan ahead, it is a strategy for having your batteries last longer. There is a way of refurbishing batteries. It's done through what is known as a Bedini charger. A Bedini charger spikes the electricity, causing the electrodes inside the battery to basically restore like it was new again. You do have to have a good power source to perform this with. There is also the cost of the Bedini charger itself, or if you choose to manufacture it yourself. I just want to mention this to those of you who are inclined to do more for yourself and have the skills and knowledge of electricity to pursue this further. Otherwise, the option is buying a new set of batteries once the ones that are in your wheelchair are worn out. Do remember that wheelchairs are like automobiles. As you use them, they are going to cost money to maintain and keep operational. There are breakdowns that are not planned. If possible, it would be best for you to have a cell phone with you in case you break down on the side of the road. This is especially true for people who use pneumatic tires. Pneumatic tires are inner tube based, where you can put a spike through the middle. Most breakdowns, however, you can limp your wheelchair home and then arrange for service once you get home. The joystick is your indicator if the wheelchair is having problems, and that's where the red flashing light that I talked about is displayed somewhere on your joystick. I hope this has been helpful. I am willing to talk about this more if you have specific questions. Thank you for this time together today. Bye for now.